material set and achieve better results on harmony examinations. So I thought, well, I better say something about that. The next sheet you should be looking at is 8 bars of notes, 1 period of something that looks like a D major minuet. So this is very daunting to a lot of harmony students, but I do think if you've been engaging in musical conversations when you come in for your weekly lessons since you were 8 years old, I think this becomes very easy. And it's just a matter of choosing which one of the umpteen responses that is whirling around in your head to write down. So what will you do? First class distinction, if we're going to get into that terminology kind of answer. But if you've been doing this since you were 8 or 9, I don't think that's going to hold you. What else might you do? Anyone? We can certainly get a G sharp in there and hint a little bit of A major. We don't require that at the basic level, but there are students who are unstoppable. You can't stop them from modulating. They're just ready to go. So this can go off in a number of directions. But the point is, if you have been doing this and singing this and looking at these things on pages and understanding how they sound, then this is actually a very easy exercise. If it's been entirely an activity that's unfolded on paper with a pencil, I can see that it would be difficult to come up with something that sounds right. And what we're looking for, of course, is something that sounds right, that is convincing, that sounds like a continuation of a Baroque or a neo-Baroque or early classical minuet. Okay, so these are 2 kinds of chord symbols. We have functional chord symbols, and the idea here on a written exam would be that the student basically does what he or she is told. They realize the given chord symbols. Functional chord symbols and playing them at the piano and done numerous exercises that build all these common progressions into your hands, I think it becomes a lot easier. I think when you finally do have to pick up a pencil and realize the chords, it's not mysterious. It is an old friend. The figured bass. Because you've been doing it for so long. So do I have anything more particular to say about getting high marks on harmony exams? I think it's all in sort of the preparation and the readiness, the kinds of things that have been done prior to the encounter. The next page is something from that you might encounter on a keyboard harmony exam, where a student, in their 20 minutes of prep time, looks at this, gets to figure out the melody line, and has to chord it. And all it says at the top is default defaults. Nothing, we don't even have chord symbols there. So what are we looking for? Well, Although you can get pretty far with 1, 4, 5. Some of my 1 chords were a bit of a strain. 1, 4, 5 will certainly take a student through this, but some 2s. And a sense of how you deal with the left hand when it's a waltz tempo. Do you play bass note? Put the ORMTA into the right hand. This is a fairly busy right hand, and it's a right hand that the students have not had a lot of time to get to know very well. So we may get something like that happening. But you know what? That is back to the method books. This is what we have been doing in the first few months of lessons, well, maybe after Christmas. And the last thing I want to look at, and we will wrap up, are 2 Bach chorales. Now, I think those who teach harmony and who maybe examine harmony know that the reason students don't do particularly well, or many don't, in this area is that they cannot hear what they're looking at. You don't have the eye-ear connection developed to where it needs to be in order to make something like this and easy and even pleasurable. So, again, if you've been using your voice for years, you can probably, partly intuitively and partly with the clues on the page, figure out what modulations are quite easily. Dominant, it's 5, 6, 5, going to 5, going to 1. This is one of those times with a 4-beat tonic chord that I might, but maybe not that, and probably not that. So what happens next? Well, we've got some visual clues. We've got 2 raised notes in a row, which seems to be saying melodic form of a minor scale to me. But you can hear that it's going to be minor. You don't need the left hand. You don't need the chord symbols telling you. Before that 5-1 cadence, well, 2. So again, I think that it's all in the way that we set the stage during their learning years. And yes, there are festivals, and there are exams, and there are recitals, and there's emphasis on playing increasingly complex pieces rapidly, with style, with flair. There is the competitive element. There are demands from parents, and there are demands and expectations of the students themselves. But I think when we ignore this whole other side, we really do our students an injustice in that we haven't prepared them for things we're going to expect from them later on. And all I can tell you is from experience, and I know some of you teach this way and probably have wonderful ideas that we could sit down and talk for 3 more hours, and I would get wonderful ideas of things to try out this very week from you. But the fun that you have with your students when you're working with them this way at the piano, the amount of laughing that happens during the lesson, the feeling of satisfaction, and not just being able to play something, but play something that one's friends actually want to listen to, the confidence that comes from being able to figure out a piece all by yourself. You didn't have to go buy the sheet music. The confidence you get from knowing you can handle a number of situations. Now, some of this doesn't come into play until later when one starts working professionally, but yes, I can transpose it to that chord or key you want me to transpose it to. Yes, I can fill in the harmony even though there's nothing on the page. Yes, I can do all these things. It really, I think, makes you a more confident musician when you feel that no matter what gets thrown at you during the day, you're going to be able to handle it. Not always elegantly, for sure, but somehow you're going to be able to handle it. So that is basically what I had to say today. I hope that I have covered my stated purpose, which was ways of making harmony fun. And I hope that we can all somehow, even if it's not a very quick, direct link, even if it seems a little bit indirect, I hope we can also connect it to better results in harmony assessments, whether they be on paper or at the keyboard. But mostly, I hope that we can connect it to developing more well-rounded musicians who have a full range of musicianship skills that they can take into their music studies, their careers, or just a life of enjoyment in music. So I thank you very much for your attention this morning. It's been lovely to be here and share this time with you. And I'm going to stay around, so if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Thanks very much.